Okay, page 13, the notes. It says we want to graph y equals cotangent theta and then cosecant theta. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So basically, what I need to do is this. I can even look at my unit circle. On the unit circle, these are the tangent values. And if we're graphing cotangent, it is the reciprocal. So here it says find these values for tangent. And even for the next one it says tangent, I'm going to cross this out. You're not really finding it for tangent. You're finding it for cotangent. So if I did a few of these, like it's 0 if the tangent's 0, cotangent's undefined. Here I'll go to pi over 4 if the tangent's 1, so is the cotangent. That's the reciprocal. At pi over 2, if the tangent's undefined, the reciprocal of something undefined is 0, because undefined is like 1 over 0. If you flip it, you get 0. 3 pi over 4, the tangent's -1, so is the cotangent. Tan of pi is 0, so cotangent's undefined. And then this will just continue. So if I go to 5 pi over 4, the tangent's 1, so is the cotangent. Tan of 3 pi over 2 is undefined, reciprocal is 0. Tan of 7 pi over 4 is -1, so is cotangent. And the tan of 2 pi is 0, cotangent's undefined. So I'm going to try to plot some of these points. 0, I'll go pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4. I just can't fit all of these on the graph. Pi, 5 pi over 4, 3 pi over 2, 7 pi over 4, and then 2 pi. So let's say this is 1 and this is -1. To show something's undefined, you would put a vertical asymptote. And obviously there's other points on the graph here. It's undefined at pi, and then 2 pi. So the cotan of pi over 4 is 1. Cotan of pi over 2 is 0. Cotan of 3 pi over 4 is -1. And then the graph's going to approach, but never hit the asymptotes, like this. Tan of 5 pi, or since the tan of 5 pi over 4 was 1, the cotangent's also 1. The tan of 3 pi over 2 is undefined, the cotangent's 0. And then since the tan of 7 pi over 4 was -1, so was the cotangent. So this is the graph, really 2 cycles worth of the graph. For the domain, you can see it's all reals, but except like pi n, where n is an integer, it's 0, pi, 2 pi, and so forth. You can't plug in. Range is really all reals because the highest value is like infinity, the lowest -infinity, and there's 0. So I'm going to say all reals. There's no specific highest or lowest point, so I'm going to say none. Y-intercept is none because there's a vertical asymptote. X-intercept, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. So I'm going to say pi n over 2, where n is an odd integer. Period for tan or cotan graphs is pi. And the asymptotes occur at every pi unit. So I'm going to say at pi n, where n is an integer. So that's the basic cotan graph. Now, the next one, it says cosecant theta. So for cosecant, that's the reciprocal of sine. So what I would do is graph the sine graph and then graph cosecant. So I'm going to graph the sine lightly and the cosecant's the reciprocal. So I'm going to just do it like this. Here, before I even fill these out, I'm going to just graph the basic sine graph lightly. if I connected these, I'd have the sine graph. So cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So the reciprocal of 0 is undefined. It's a vertical asymptote. The reciprocal of sine of pi over 2 is 1, so is the cosecant. The reciprocal of 0 is undefined. The reciprocal of -1 is -1, and the reciprocal of 0 is undefined again. So if I graph the sine graph lightly, it would be like in here. But we're graphing the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of something small is going to be big. It's going to be up here. So the cosecant graph is going to go away from the sine graph. It's going to look like this, and then like this. Like that. It goes away from the sine graph. And that's at least one cycle's worth of the cosecant graph. Domain. Again, it's all reals except where the asymptotes occur. That's all reals except pi n, where n is an integer. The range here is this. There's no values between 1 and -1. I would say y is either greater than or equal to 1, or y is less than or equal to -1. There's no specific maximum or minimum. There's no y-intercept. X-intercept, where the graph crosses the x-axis, is none. Asymptotes is pi n, where n is an integer. And your basic period is every 2 pi. I'm not going to worry about what's in the bottom rectangle, y equals 1 or -1. That's irrelevant to this. So even though I didn't fill in the chart, the best way to graph cosecant is graph sine, and then cosecant is just the reciprocal of sine. These are the notes from page 13 in chapter 6.